Well done. Thank you, team. Good job. I've got the team behind me making sure that we do the right thing. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to get some guests along to help us with this as we go through, and we really want your input. We want you to tell us what you liked about it, what you didn't like, and also what areas you'd like us to focus on and cover over the next few weeks. So I'm just going to share the screen with you, and then we'll start talking about this. But I think you're going to find this interesting because it's going to be coming at it from a very different angle. So I'll just get the, there we go. So hopefully you're now seeing that screen. Okay, so today we're going to share with you my 5 top tips to take control of your finances. And why do we need to take control of our finances? Well, we need to take control because if we feel out of control, then we feel stressed. And there's been a lot going on lately with people. I mean, some of you may not have noticed any difference in terms of your finances over the last few months, but a lot of people have. There are obviously some people on less pay because they've been furloughed. There's people that have had pay cuts. There's people who have uncertainty about their role in the future. Some people might not be affected themselves, but might have people in their family, so their spouses might have anxiety or pay cuts or furloughs or job losses, all sorts of things going on. So the pressure to deal with our financial resilience is really important. And it is about financial resilience. And I want to introduce that word because this is a psychological thing. So let me share with you what I'm thinking here, because whilst we can share the 5 top tips, I want to make one really important distinction. I think this distinction is so powerful, really is powerful. Financial well-being is what it is all about, you know. And you know, what is financial well-being? Well, I'll tell you now, any success in life at all is 80% psychology. 80% of it's psychology, and 20% of it is the mechanics. So what do I mean by that? For example, you know, you could read 1 million books on money, on finances, on investing, and all that sort of thing. But if you don't have the right psychology with it, we often don't do anything about it. Let's take another example. For example, let's say a golf player. You know, all the top golfers, if you put them on a driving range on a day off, they're all going to be pretty much the same. But you put them in a big competition, and it's the ones who can manage their psychology which are the winners, the ones that can stay relaxed and stay on target. Another example is diets. You know, I'm sure all of us would like to look a bit better, look a bit different. You know, some of us want to be a bit thinner. Some of us want to be healthier and more energy, have a different body shape. There's so much information out there just in our hands on our smartphone where we can go and find out everything we ever need to know about diet and fitness and personal trainers and gyms. It's all there. There's an abundance of information, but we don't all take action. We don't all do anything about it. That's the psychology. And when it comes to well-being in the workplace, you know, there's a lot of focus on mental health, emotional well-being, physical well-being. Well, the financial well-being is so crucial because without financial well-being, it's very difficult to have good emotional well-being. If we're worried about money every day, then that's really bad for our emotional well-being, and it does lead to mental health issues. So psychology is important because, for example, let's say that you came up with a strategy to get out of debt. If you got out of debt, but you didn't change your psychology, which is affecting your behaviors and your habits, then there's chances are we might go back into debt. So it's the psychology which is really important. Now, if you remember if you go back to the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, there was a whole bunch of people out there in society in the UK, and they were life assurance agents, or commonly known as financial advisors. And what they did, they went out to the community and they were persuading people to save money. Now, this is your man from the Prue or your lady from the Provident. At one point, I remember going back, I've been doing this for 31 years, persuading people to save money. And if you go right back to those days, 300,000 of these people out in society persuading people to save. Now, they called themselves financial advisors. They weren't necessarily spending a lot of time talking about the products, because if they did, people wouldn't have bought those products, those savings products. But what they were doing, they were focusing on finding out what people wanted and why they wanted it. And if we can find out what you want and why you want it, then you can find the mechanics, you can find the strategy, but we do need both. There's no point being highly motivated and then having a strategy which doesn't work. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit towards the end of the session today. There is a strategy which a lot of people are taking advantage of right now, which is failing them. Okay, and I'll explain that in very simple terms at the end. The other thing is you could have the best strategy in the world, but without the psychology, you might not take action, you might not do it. And there's other emotional things which drive the activity. So financial well-being is a feeling. It's a feeling of feeling in control. It's a feeling of not having anxiety. It's a feeling of having a good quality life. And the quality of our life is really, it's just have the quality of how we feel on a daily basis. So what we want to do, we want to help you become in control of most things financially in your life. Some of that is going to be psychology. Some of that's going to be knowledge. So when we have psychology multiplied by knowledge, multiplied by execution, that is where we get to a fantastic level of financial well-being for you. And that will really support all of the other aspects of life, our well-being and all the other areas. So let's get into it a little bit. But before we do get started in my 5 top tips to take control of your finances, we mustn't ignore the elephant in the room for some people. I'm not going to dwell on it because I know some people don't have these issues, but there's some people with debt that they don't like. So I'm just going to touch on it. Debt, there are solutions to debt. Now, if half of your money is being spent on servicing debt, I would suggest you need some third-party help, okay? Go out and look for some third-party help. In some of you work in companies where you have an employee assistance program. Don't be proud, okay? Don't be proud, don't be too proud. Pick the phone up and talk to these people. A lot of these helplines are there 24 hours a day, okay? Charities out there to help people. There's financial coaching available out there, some of these within charities, some of these within inside the workplace. If you've got half your money servicing debt, I'd strongly suggest get some third-party help. Don't be proud. It's really not worth it. If you've got 30-40% of your money servicing debt, then there is some help. There is some light at the end of the tunnel there, and you can do this on your own. So for example, let's say you've got 3 credit cards, high interest credit cards. We don't want that toxic debt. Now, some people pay a little bit off each one of them. It takes a long time. We want to get our psychology to support us. So very quick idea on that one is take the 2 biggest ones, first of all, and just pay the minimum on those. And then the idea is to pay as much as you can down off of the lowest one, the smallest one. Get rid of it quicker, okay? Get rid of that quicker. Then suddenly, psychologically, you're making progress because you're down to 2. Next thing is, then take the second biggest one, pay down as much of that as you can, and then you're down to 1. And what happens is you're going from 3 to 2 to 1 cards, and then you get out the other end and you celebrate the victories that you've made along the journey. So you might not have paid them off any quicker, but psychologically it feels like you have. Right, I've just got a quick question popped up. Anything going on there? Let's have a quick look. Okay, no, it's gone. Right, okay. So as I say, so don't try it on your own. If you've got severe problems there, go and get some third-party help. If you've got some credit cards, and also if you cleared them credit cards off, if you've done it 3, 2, 1 like that, think about it. There's a point, when you come to pay that off, you've been living without that monthly amount. You could convert that to savings. Get that habit, that good habit, and make that habit of a lifetime to build your wealth. Because what we want to do for financial well-being, we want to be looking forward. Whether we are in a minus position at the moment with debt, whether we're neutral, whether we are, got reasonable amount of money, all of us want to be progressing forward. This is really good for our financial well-being. This is very good for our financial resilience. And let's imagine if we got all of those things taken care of, we've got goals, we've got a plan to achieve them. Next time there's a COVID-19 problem come along, we're better prepared for it. So not only are we resilient from a financial perspective, we're resilient from a psychological perspective. Okay, so get that one out of the way. Let's look at the 5 top tips to take control of your finances. Now, when I put this together, or what I noticed was actually the 5 tips, actually, if I took the first word, started to spell a word. So I got my thesaurus out and fiddled with it a little bit, and I came up with the word stash. I think that's quite nice, neat and tidy, and it kind of says what it does on the tin. Stash is the clue in the acronym. But let's take a look at it. So what is the first S? Now, the first S, I would say, is the tough one. But where we need our psychology to help us is to push through the obstacles and the challenges to get through number 1. But we've got a great opportunity right now to take control here, because for a lot of us, some of us aren't working. Some of us are working from home. We're having less meetings. We are traveling less. So we've got a bit more time on our hands. And so the idea is, let's know what is going on. What we need to do here, number 1, we have to do this, the first one, and I'm going to try and sell you on this in a minute, okay? Because this is really important, is to scrutinize what is going on. We need to be in control. We need to know what's going on with our finances. Sometimes we kind of get to the end of the month, just about run out of money, get paid again and carry on. But sometimes we need to stop. We're running often at 100 miles an hour. We can't see what's going on around us. And the opportunity right now that we are in a different scenario that we're slowed down, maybe we can take a look at it. So scrutinize, I'm going to talk to you in more detail about that in a minute. Second thing is when we start to then get out and debt, build our wealth, save our money. Second tip is to tie it up. Okay, just make it a bit difficult, not impossible, but a bit difficult to get your hands on that money. And I'll explain psychologically why in a minute. Number 3 is to automate. Let's not make it difficult for ourselves. Let's not have to make a decision every month. You know, you're all in pensions at work, automatically enrolled into a pension. That's taken from your pay even before you have it. Why don't we apply the same thinking to our other savings, our short-term and our medium-term savings? Let's automate that. And so it's taken care of. We don't have to think about it. And it's taken care of. Good. So fourth one, specify. Now, if we put a label on things, we bring it to life. If we've got an objective and a plan that we want to try and achieve something, and we're saving for something, put a name to it. And I'll share some thoughts with you around that in a minute, because it just, again, is a psychological block to actually ruin the plan. You know, the temptation, you can be avoided if you've got specific reasons for that particular strategy. And then the fourth one is hide it. Out of sight, out of mind. So, you know, we've all put a jacket on in the autumn when it starts to get a bit colder and found some money in the pocket. We've all done that before. We managed to live without it, you know. So hide it out of sight, out of mind, because what happens is when we keep seeing it, our psychology starts to play. We start to hypnotize ourselves. And so if we get it out of sight, out of mind, it's pretty, I actually put my kids' family allowance into an account, which I couldn't see, and it was amazing. I forgot about it for several years. There's quite a lot of money in there. So hiding is really powerful. So I'm going to share some thoughts around all of these with you now as we go through. So scrutinize. Let's look at what I mean by that. So first of all, mobile phones, apps. Did you know if you uninstall your mobile phone app, it doesn't stop the subscription payment? Contracts, okay? I did this all myself. I rang up my provider. It took forever to get through because obviously everyone's working from home. I was on the phone for a long time waiting, over half an hour, got through, saved £30 a month. That was a good half an hour well spent. £30 a month because my daughter's phone, who I pay for, it comes to its expiry date and I hadn't gone to SIM only. Simple thing like that. TV packages, I had a box I wasn't using, switched it off, another £30 a month. You know, suddenly this starts to add up a lot in a year, but because I was running 100 miles an hour, didn't pick these things up. Gym memberships, we're not paying them at the moment. And also bank statements, look at your direct debits. Are they all necessary? You know, the direct debit set up there is you're giving someone permission to take money from your account, okay? So you switch. I thought this was going to be hard work. It wasn't dead easy. Straight on there. All you need is your kilowatts per year for your gas and electric. Postcode, in you go. It's plain sailing. They take care of it all for you. Save hundreds of pounds a year. And PayPal, cheeky one here. They kind of have a very clever way of kind of hiding pre-approved payments. So I'm just going to touch on those for a moment with you. Look, I can't go into lots of detail, but on your Apple, okay, they keep changing how you unsubscribe from your subscriptions. Okay, so this is the trick. When you open settings, you're looking for subscriptions, you're scrolling around, can't find it. No, you have to go and touch your name at the top. Then you can find it. Okay, so just that little trick there. It's not obvious. It's not obvious that you tap your name at the top, but then you can go and find the descriptions and you can then delete them. PayPal, I couldn't do it on my phone. I found it really hard. So logged into your PC, another obstacle, username, password. Right, okay. Second thing, click on settings. Now, not long ago, it used to be click on profile. Then you click on payments at the top of the page. Used to be my money. Okay, click view where it says pre-approved payments. Then click show active. Then click on the account you want to cancel. Then click cancel. Really, really deep, hard work to do it. Very difficult. You need time. You can Google how to do that, by the way, rather than try and remember everything I've just said there. But there's one other thing. When you show active, it only shows you the first 5. At the bottom of the page, it says show more. There are more behind it, okay? So click on show more, cancel them. Because what happens is on your bank statements, you see a PayPal payment, but you don't quite know what it's for. This is a great way to save some money. And again, I had some pre-approved payments on there that I didn't need to have there anymore. So I could spend ages on that. You can Google all this stuff, okay? I would suggest, again, taking half an hour out just to cover a bit of a cleanup, get things tidied up, bit of housekeeping while we're still kind of partially locked down, opportunity to do that. But here's the biggie. This is the one that we all procrastinate on. We don't like the sound of it. Budget planner. We need to know what's going on, but we need to take this to an emotional moment. I said psychology is our friend. Psychology is the thing we need. So what we need to do, we need to get through this because we need to find out what you want and why you want it. And what we want to do is make sure that you don't waste money, and you make sure that you're in control of your money. And the budget planner is a great way to do it. There's lots out there. I would recommend the Money Advice Service Budget Planner. Absolutely fantastic, easy to use. But here's the important bit. You've got to persevere with it. It'll take you 15, 20 minutes, but it will get you to a place where you see your specific own details. We all know generally we should save. We all know generally we're probably spending too much in certain areas. But when it's laid out and it's actually your facts about you as an individual, that's when you have an emotional moment. If you don't like it, that's the moment of decision we need to get to. This is the bit that's missing in finance. It's that decision-making process. It's that moment when we don't like it, we want to change it. Okay, so go through the process, take control. If you feel in control, you'll feel less stressed. So you'll get a report like that when you see your bills and you see what you're spending. Find that moment. That moment is a moment you make a decision. You might limit your spending on socializing, for example, okay, instead of just doing it blindly. There's also some fantastic money-saving ideas and links and everything on there. So I highly recommend that, free of charge. It's paid for by my industry, actually. So dive on there and make the most of it. So that's the hard bit out of the way. We've done some housekeeping. We've taken control. We know where our money's going. We don't like some of that, so we make some decisions. We make some decisions to cut that down, maybe set a budget of spending on fun stuff. Now, tie it up. Let's look at that. What do I mean by tie it up? Well, there's a lot of temptation out there. And what that up there represents is targeted social media advertising, okay? Targeted ads. When you go on social media platforms, they know what you're interested in. They put content up that you have a look at. And if you look at it for 10 seconds, you go in a 10-second audience. If you look at it for 30 seconds, maybe a video, they'll put you in a 30-second audience. If you watch it for a whole minute, you go into a minute audience. And then people that have got that product or service to sell will promote to those audiences. And that's how they get paid. So they know that you're interested or half interested or three-quarters interested. They keep on bombarding you with adverts for that particular thing. You've all experienced it. You know when you go on Facebook, all that stuff happens. You look at some obscure item, suddenly you're bombarded with adverts. Now, what then happens is it gets to a point where you're bombarded so much, there's an impulse. They're using your psychology against us. So basically we get the impulse, well, suddenly we want it. It's been presented to me enough. I've been exposed to it so long. I want it. And then what do? They make it really easy to buy it. You know, one click on your phone, get it tomorrow. Amazon, fantastic. So a tip here is just to manage the impulse. Don't buy it on one click, buy now. Always add it to cart. Add it to your cart. You sleep on it. Have a look in the morning. If the urge is still there, fantastic, buy the thing. We can all wait an extra day, you know, but this is what they do. They get the impulse to buy, make it very easy, painless, swipe the phone, thing there tomorrow. So this is where it's gone now. And what happens is, whose money are we using? We're not always using our own money. Sometimes there's credit cards pre-programmed into these things. It's not even our own money we're spending. So this is the world we're in now. We've moved from 30 years ago where there was a culture of saving to now there's a culture of credit cards. So when I say tie it up, here's a plan. So let's imagine you start to save for a specific reason. You know, we want to have an obstacle that actually helps you when you get that impulse. If you are bombarded with social media stuff, which you will get, okay, there are accounts out there you can save into that have a 35-day notice period. If you take it out sooner than that, you get a penalty. Now, you can get it if you need it, but that penalty is just enough to make you think, maybe I'll think twice. Just that small penalty on interest, you lose 35 days interest if you do that. So that is a good little obstacle. Another thing that I've got is I've got an account, a building society, and I've got a card for it, but I do not know the PIN number. Now I can go in and use the card in the bank or the building society, but I don't know the PIN number, so I'm not tempted to go to the ATM. So I'm just making it a bit difficult. And if I really want to get the money out, I can, but I've got to go in during bank opening times, and I've got to sign for it. So just that tying it up a little bit, just making it slightly out of reach, where you can get it if you need it, but it's just another thing to make you think twice when you get that urge. Should I or shouldn't I? This really, really is helpful. So that's another little top tip. So next one is automate. Now, as I said before, your pensions at work are all automated. It's coming out of your pay before you even see it. So if you have this bright idea that you've got this objective you want to achieve, set it up on a direct debit. Set it up on a direct debit the day you get paid. So it comes out of your bank even before you've seen the money. A bit like your pension, but direct debit from the bank towards wherever this objective is. It's a fantastic thing to do. Another way of doing it is this concept, Save More Tomorrow, was developed by a couple of guys, Richard Tyler and Shlomo Benarty wrote this book. We've actually met this guy. He's a behavioural economist. And so, you're on furlough at the moment, some of you might have been on pay cuts. Some of you might not have been affected at all, obviously. But some of you might get a pay rise one day. Who knows? You might get a promotion. But there's some point in the future where you might have a loan paid off, but there's going to be some point in the future where you suddenly got a bit more money. If that's the moment where you catch it and say, right, every time I get a bit more money, whether it's a loan being paid off or a pay rise, or I get my income reinstated, my pay cut reinstated, my furlough money's gone back up, there's a moment there, you were living on that money before. So why don't you maybe think about moving half of that into savings? You were living on it before you get used to having it again. Opportunity now, right now, fantastic opportunity to start to create some great new habits. Okay, that's my next top tip. Warren Buffett is the most famous investor in the world, probably the top 5 richest people. And he says, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. And that's the key thing. A lot of people say, oh, right, I'll save whatever I've got left at the end of the month. And I'm saying, no, let's get a direct debit set up on payday, get out that money out the bank, out of harm's way, out of temptation, put it away and get used to living with on the rest. Okay, what's the next one? So the next one is to specify. Now, I love this one. This is a really good psychological solution. So when I say specify, I mean this. Now, if you remember going back in the old days, people didn't have bank accounts so much. They used to put their money in a jar up the cupboard. And they used to save that for a rainy day. There's going to be lots of different things that you want to save for. And what I suggest you do is you put a label on it. So one of the ways of doing this is you can have sub-accounts set up at your bank. So you could have your current account and a savings account. You could have another savings account and give it a name. You could call it the holiday account. You could call it the emergency fund. You could call it the deposit account. Whatever your objective is, name it, specify it, okay? Give it a name, because what happens is, especially if it's a family thing or it's you and your partner, you've got a purpose and a reason for that money there. And when temptation comes along, again, this is an obstacle to just, okay, I'm tempted to spend that money now on something short-term, instant gratification, but psychologically, there's a purpose for that, and I'll be letting the other person down or the family down or myself down if I dip into it. So whatever it is, have sub-accounts with a name on them for whatever the objective you're saving for is, but also to make it even more powerful, okay, really strong psychologically, make that tight, be specific about what it's for. Have a monetary target. What is the amount of money you're aiming for, and what is the time scale? If you put those things in there, you make it very, very specific, very, very measurable. Okay, this makes it real, and you really don't want to let yourself down then. Once you've started the process, and once you've done it for a while, you don't want to stop. But here's another thing, depending on the time scale, it's then, do I invest that money or do I not? And this is one little thing I'm going to share with you, which is going to be a bit of a thing for next week's session. And that is invested or not. Here's a big mistake that lots of people make. In the UK, we're terrible at this, okay? And that is that we invest in cash far too much. Why do we invest in cash? Because it feels safe. Is it safe though? Is cash a good investment? Well, what about inflation? How does inflation compare to cash? If inflation's higher than cash, what's actually happening to the real value of your cash, the buying power? It's going down if inflation beats it. Now, some of you might know about things called ISAs, individual savings accounts. Why do people take these ISAs out? They take them out because they're tax-free. But most people, the vast, vast majority of people invest in a cash ISA. Why do they do that? Fear. Because what's the alternative? You've got the cash ISA. The alternative is what they call a stocks and shares ISA. Now, that feels like a big jump from cash, which feels safe, to stocks and shares, which feels scary. And if you don't know, if your knowledge isn't there and you haven't got the confidence, I think it puts people off. So the first thing I would suggest we do is just change that word stocks and shares. It doesn't have to be literally, stocks and shares in one company. It can be a fund which invests in lots of companies. So let's call it an invested ISA as opposed to a cash ISA. But let me show you, if you could have a crystal ball looking into the future, why cash is not necessarily the best thing to invest into for the medium term. Short-term emergency fund for some of these, for your holiday fund, anything that's for a year or two, cash, fine. Anything that goes beyond that into the medium term, you need to get that money doing the work for you. We want to get that money to be making money while you're asleep. And that can only happen if it's invested. So let me show you some facts here. I'm not going to go into lots of detail today, but this will be a bit of a taste of what's coming. What I've looked at here is the end of 5-year periods up until the end of these periods. So if you look at 2005, the end of 2005, for that 5 years, we've looked at inflation, a cash ISA and an invested ISA. Look how well they performed in that period. If you look at 2019, we're looking at the 5-year period ending at the end of 2019. So let me show you, first of all, inflation. Now, if you look at 2005, you can see there that at the end of that 5-year period, inflation was about, over that period, about 14%. If you look at 2013, it was around about 18, 19%. Okay, so that's pretty much straightforward. Hopefully we all get that, right? Now, let's now look at cash in the same period. Now, can you see what's happened in the last 10 years especially? Inflation has outperformed cash by a considerable amount. In fact, if you had cash for the last 10 years invested in your ISA, you've lost money in true monetary buying power. Okay, so we need a bit of confidence to go over to invested ISA, stocks and shares ISA, and hopefully over the next few weeks you'll get more confidence in this area. But let me show you the numbers. Now, when you invest in in an invested ISA, and it will have some stocks and shares in there, for example, stocks go up and down, and this is what puts people off, the fear of the unknown going down. But let me show you. Now, if you had looked into a crystal ball going back 20 years ago, and you knew this, it's pretty much a no-brainer where you'd invest the money. But look at a couple of things here. First of all, sometimes, yes, for sure, the invested ISA has not performed as well as cash or inflation, but it's very rare. As you can see, I think there's 1 or 2 times there where or 3 times where it didn't perform better. However, when it doesn't perform as well, it's only underperformed by a little bit. But look at on the upside. Most of the time it is up. Most of the time it's massively outperformed, and it's performed by a lot. So I think now's the time. The markets are a bit volatile. They've gone down, bounced back a bit. You've had the headlines in March. You didn't hear any headlines about the bounce back. Another worry, another thing which drives it. And this is the psychology of investing. It's fear and greed. And usually what people need to do is do the opposite of what everybody else does. When everyone's getting fearful, it's probably time to get greedy. When people are getting greedy, probably the time to get fearful. So what we want to do is give you the confidence, and you the psychological confidence to actually make those investments and actually get it right. As long as it's for the medium term, okay, then historically it's been good. So we'll touch more on that next week in more detail. A bit of a taster there. Okay, so the final one, hide it. So what I mean by hide it is out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so very simple way to do this. Okay, we don't want to be presented with it. Our brains work in funny ways. If we keep seeing that money, we hypnotize ourselves. We keep justifying it. I could spend that money. Okay, we want to just get it off the radar a little bit. And a simple way to do that is for your savings accounts, your sub accounts, where you've got them named. Okay, because you're specifying. Put them with a different bank to the one you do your online banking with. I know I've got a HSBC app, and when I open it up, I can see all my accounts. I don't want that. I want it outside. So I have that in a separate bank, okay? A separate bank where you don't see it every day. If you've got an ISA, make that a separate place to your current bank account. So you just don't see it. You have to go to look for it rather than it being presented with you every time you look at your current account. Out of sight, out of mind, you then don't get into that process of justifying to yourself why you might want to touch that money in the short term. Okay, so those are my 5 top tips. Hopefully that's a bit of a taster of what's to come. Okay, so scrutinize, tie it up, automate it, then specify it, and then hide it. So hopefully you've got something from that. We've touched on some of the more mechanical stuff and some of the practical stuff that we'll be covering more next week. But what I'd love to get from you guys is I really would love you to help us, help yourselves, help everybody. We want to spread the word about this. This is a free of charge, no strings, financial well-being, presentation, education, whatever you want to call it. Okay, next Friday we're going to cover off investing made simple in a bit more detail. We're going to look at the hierarchy of investments, where you want to go. We're going to try to overcome some of the fear of, and I'm going to be talking about the psychology of investing. And I've got a guest speaker who's a qualified financial advisor who's going to help us understand, some of the mechanical, practical steps that we need to do. So thanks for joining in today. I hope you got something out of it. I've just about finished on the time we said we're going to finish. But what I need you to do is do me a favor. Please, 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 could you, in 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to get an email from us, and we want your feedback. We want to know, are we hitting this on the, is this hitting the right tone? Is it the right level? I know there's lots of different people in different situations out there. Give us your feedback. If you've got something positive to say, tell us. If you've got some constructive criticism, please tell us. Also, tell us what you want, what you'd like to see, what would benefit you. We'll start to look at what's the most popular subjects and topics, and we'll develop the whole thing over time to make it good for you. We've got 8 weeks of this. It might go on longer, who knows? Okay. Someone said, are these sessions being recorded? We'll be able to see them if we're unable to make the webinar. Yes, we're going to record all of them, as long as I remember to press record, because I didn't do it earlier. The first 2 minutes are missing. So yeah, absolutely. So please do give us your feedback. And also what I'm going to do, I'm going to stay here for a few minutes, try and answer a few questions. If there's too many, what we'll do, we'll endeavour to get those back to you in the meantime. So I'm just going to hang around. So thanks very much, but please do the feedback in 5 or 10 minutes. Go to your inbox, give us a view. We want to fine tune this and get it absolutely right, because a lot of work to be done out there. A lot of people worried about things that don't need to be. Just sometimes the right information delivered in the right way, the right time to the right people can change all of that. So I'm just going to field a few questions. Okay. Question here is, can you offer an advice service? Right. That is not what this is about. Okay. Yes, advice is a great thing, but it's out of reach for most people. If you want to talk to an advisor, best thing to do is to go on to ask a friend. Go onto Facebook and put on Facebook, anybody you know of a really nice advisor I could talk to. Another way of doing it, personal recommendation is good. Another way of doing it, go onto a website called Unbiased, or go on to another website called Vouched For, Unbiased and Vouched For. You can put in your postcode, what your subject is you're interested in. They will give you a list of different people locally that you can talk to. And you can have a chat on the phone, see which ones you like the sound of, and then meet up with them and see what they want. But you're gonna have to pay for it. There are things out that you can get for free. There are apps out there. There's robots, okay, robot advisors. Why they don't necessarily work that well is because people need a why, and they need to know what they want. Okay, and that's the bit that's missing. Okay, so what else we got? Are you happy for us to share these recordings with our employees? Absolutely, that's what it's there for. This is for individuals, your friends, your family. If you've got employees you want to dial into this, you help them watch the recordings. Absolutely, that's what it's there for. What do we get out of it? It's a bit of PR for us, but this is not, there's no strings, there's not selling anything, there's no proposition or product or service at the end of it. This is just pure morale boosting at a time when we need it, financial content we also want to share with you. Okay, any more questions that are useful for the whole group? Okay, well, I do. Okay, there's some very deep and meaningful questions here. So what we'll do, on your feedback forms, if you'd be so kind as to put your deep and meaningful questions on there, we'll answer them individually if we can. Also, so if there's a common theme of questions, what we'll do, we'll then weave that into future sessions going forward. Is your mortgage a debt or household bill? Right, so when I talked about if half of your money is spent on servicing debt, that's mortgage and loans and credit cards, okay? But a mortgage is a good debt. That's a healthy one because it's low interest and it's also asset backed. You've got an asset that's linked to it, which is going up in value. So it's not a bad thing, obviously. I mean, I remember back in my day, when I first started buying a house, the interest rates were 15%. They're crazy. So, they're all pretty good value now for most people. Okay, what else we got? Another question. I think I've just answered that same question. Okay. Right, I think, yeah, lots of questions about being recorded, lots of thank yous, that's good. Okay, guys, look, I think we're done. I think I've overrun my time anyway. Thanks for jumping on this. If you enjoyed it, tell other people. Let's get everybody on board. Let's have a Financial Fitness Friday start to the weekend for everybody. It's not just about being fit physically, fit mentally. Let's get fit financially. It supports all those other things. Love to see more of you join on. We had loads of registrations this week. Looking for more next week. We're going to have to expand the license for the broadcasting software. But it's been great to listen to see you, some of your questions. If you could do me one favour, though, please give us the feedback. In 5 or 10 minutes, go to your inbox, give us that feedback. We're dying to know what you're thinking. All right, brilliant. Have a great weekend. Looks like we're going to be all right weather-wise. What a great week we've had. Looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Things are starting to get great. This is a good time to now capitalise on this. So good luck to you all, and I wish you every success in your journey to financial well-being. Take care. Bye for now.